Welcome to our third omni-channel themed Net Finance webinar. We're happy to be joined by Kofax, who will be helping us frame this discussion surrounding how and why financial services companies are incorporating innovative digital services to attract new customers. We are also joined by a panel of industry experts who will be helping us to understand how their institutions are innovating in the mobile and online channels to increase customer satisfaction. But quickly, before I introduce our panelists, I wanted to remind you about our next live event, which is Net Finance Interactive, and that's going to be taking place December 2nd through interactive sessions, roundtables, and workshops. We already have over 50 speakers confirmed. If you'd like more information about that event, please email me at elizabeth.robillard, which is ROBILLARD@wbresearch.com. Now on to the panelists. On the line we have Rich Smith,
from the early 2000s up to maybe 2007, 2008. Ditech was run by GMAC Mortgage, and we're in the midst of rebranding the company and bringing in new old brand back to the market.
Perfect. Thank you, Rich. And Amy, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the group.
Sure. My name is Amy Judd. I am the online channel manager at SunTrust, so I manage the unauthenticated channels. SunTrust, for those of you who are not familiar with us, we're a large regional bank located in predominantly in the southeast, and it's a commercial, consumer, and wholesale bank.
Perfect. Thank you. And Peter, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Poon, and I manage the Canadian mobile banking channel and alerts platforms at the Bank of Montreal, also known as BMO. We are a North American-based financial institution providing retail, wealth, and investment banking services to over 12 million customers, roughly the 8th largest bank in North America by assets, with roughly a distribution network of over 1,500 branches and 4,200 ATMs. Thanks.
Great. Great. Thanks, Peter. And Matt, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Matt Krogstad. I head up mobile for Bank of the West. We're a subsidiary of BNP Paribas. Been here for about 2.5 years, and looking forward to the panel.
Perfect. Thank you. And Bruce, could you finish up with a quick background of yourself and Kofax, and maybe do a quick explanation about the mortgage origination solution you're going to be talking about towards the end of the webinar?
Sure. So my name is Bruce Orcutt, and I'm with the product marketing here at Kofax, responsible for our mobile applications and solutions. And Kofax is a leading provider of smart process applications that really are focused around simplifying the business-critical first mile of these customer information-intensive customer interactions, which is really an area that our mortgage customers focus on. And then today we'll be focusing on how we can leverage that mobile customer engagement channel to drive more loans, accelerate processes, and be more interactive with our customers themselves.
Great. Thank you, Bruce. So now we're actually going to head into our panel questions. You can pull up that next slide. So our first question here is, what are some of the innovations that you've worked on or maybe about to release in your current position? And these are digital innovations. I'm actually going to pass this question on to Peter, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of what you guys are doing over at BMO.
Thanks. Just to highlight that earlier this year at BMO, we completed the migration to a brand new mobile platform and relaunched our mobile app across Android, Apple, and BlackBerry platforms. One of the key innovations on the app was a function called branch appointment booking, which allows our customers to book an appointment with branch staff in real time and discuss their banking needs on the go. The feature, I think, is highly applicable for customers who are, for example, house hunting. and it allows them to start a conversation easily with our branch staff and get the kind of lending process started. Our customers have responded very positively to this feature. In the few months to date, we've booked over thousands of appointments and brought our customers in. And from a customer feedback perspective, we've also received some good feedback around how convenient the process is. And the fact that we've enabled more of a cross-channel linkage between assisted experience and self-serve experience, especially around for our customers who are looking to fulfill a mortgage application, a beginning mortgage application. We know that oftentimes they do want a conversation rather than filling a rather large form. And imagine it would be a rather painful conversation on a small device such as your mobile phone. And this is where I think we've launched a feature that has really facilitated that process. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. Amy, I'm going to pass it over to you. I know we were talking a couple days ago about some of the really interesting things that you guys are doing over at SunTrust.
Sure. So we are really focused right now on aligning the customer experience across online and mobile channels. We're working on a replatforming for mobile and tablet as well as online banking, and we're looking at putting a unified design across all those platforms that's a little bit more consistent between unauthenticated and authenticated channels. Some of the stuff that we've recently done in the unauthenticated channels, we implemented what we call a people finder, and it is so clients can easily find somebody in their local area to talk with. So whether they're searching for a mortgage or some sort of specialty group like sports and entertainment or a financial advisor, they can find somebody that has a specialty in their area. And so we've rolled that out across quite a few of our groups and looking to roll that out to more of our specialists. We're also working diligently to roll out responsive web design for the various channels, especially for unauthenticated. So we started doing this about 2 years ago, and we're going bit by bit, line of business by line of business. And so we've last year we integrated mortgage into the new platform. So mortgage rolled out with the new responsive design. We've finished deposits. We're going to continue to do that for the rest of this year. It should be done by the end or first part of next year. And with that, we've rolled out a unique kind of concept, I guess, if you will. It's a resource center, and it's basically a mix of custom and licensed content that delivers a really best-in-class client experience, and it is built on a rules engine that allows clients to go find thought leadership tools and resources to help them make financial decisions. So it's content that's not static on a page. It's all related based on tags and themes and client circumstances. So those are some of the things that we've worked on.
Great, thanks, Amy. And Matt, if you wouldn't mind talking about some of the things that you have done in the past or might be working on over at Bank of the West.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll focus on maybe just 2 or 3 things. The main one that probably people know about that we've done is a service called Quick Balance. So that's unauthenticated transactions on an app, where instead of having to log in, you can just pull down, a single gesture to get access, in this case, to your balances, excuse me, on Android or iPhone app or on the iPad. Quick Balance also shows you a 30-day forward-looking view of your pending payments and e-bills. So that's kind of one thing that people might find a little bit innovative. We've also done something we call dynamic customer messaging. So this is one-to-one personalized messaging within the app. This is particularly useful in the financial education and kind of evangelism space, where we want to engage our customers in information that we produce that we think is going to be useful to them, so not necessarily cross-sell. So around, how to stay safe online, should they rent versus buy, here's what you need to know about insurance, et cetera. And then we also target customers one-to-one when we think that there is a bank product that might be useful for them. And so there we're leveraging our CRM tool that helps to identify those opportunities and present those very selectively to customers. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is around mobile deposit. most everyone's launched mobile deposit now, particularly in the U.S. We immediately got feedback from our branches and contact center that the limits weren't high enough for certain, generally quite high-value segments. So your, affluent consumers, your small business customers, your wealth management customers. And so we created a dynamic set of criteria that could be applied to customers to qualify them for higher limits automatically. And this has delivered a 12% increase in our deposit volume since we went into production with that last November. So that's been really successful, and we're intending to do more in that space.
Great, thanks, Matt. And Rich, are you guys doing anything digital-based over at DiTech?
Well, yeah, we're certainly doing a lot of things digital-based. I think, one of the luxuries that we have, I think, as we begin to roll or re-roll out the brand is that, we're designing everything with, with digital and multi-platform in mind. So all of our online assets are responsive, whether it's landing pages, websites, everything that we build is responsive so that it can work, cross-platform. So we're a little bit fortunate, I think, in the luxury of having kind of a greenfield to step into all of our design process with all the different formats in mind from the get-go.
Excellent. Thank you, Rich. So we're going to move on to this next question. It's related to the first question, more about some of the more specific features you guys might be working on. And this might not apply to everyone, so if you don't feel like answering, you can just move it on. But the question here is, are you integrating features like imaging and GPS into your digital platforms, or anything like iBeacon or something like that? Maybe, Peter, I'll throw it to you again to see if you guys are doing anything like that over at BMO.
Thanks. Currently, we do leverage the GPS in our digital platforms, specifically when we are allowing the customer to find the closest branch or ATM on our app. So that's where the GPS would be leveraged. We would continue to do so in a number of things in the future. Can't say too much at this point, unfortunately, so I'll have to pass it on to the next panelist.
Sure, no worries. Amy, how about yourself?
Yeah, so from a mobile perspective, that being relevant and useful to clients when they're trying to find a location, an ATM or branch, makes sense. I don't know specifically if the launch for the summer for mobile has that functionality. I think it does, but for online, it really isn't as applicable. So I really have to pass on that one.
No worries. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, so like everybody, we use GPS for our locator function. That actually gets quite a lot of usage. So that's good. We think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage native controls on the device. Payee by photo, and I think that those are good examples of quite frankly, a Gen 1 implementation there, and I think that you're going to see a lot more banks go in that direction. Certainly, we're working on that pretty hard. And in terms of GPS, I mean, merchant-funded offers, using the mobile phone to provide a location-based merchant-funded offer view is a really compelling use case relative to merchant-funded offers just online that just show up kind of statically in your transaction history. So we really think that mobile is a great opportunity to leverage GPS to improve some existing use cases like merchant-funded offers, but do it in a way more compelling way. You mentioned Beacon. Being in San Francisco, Bank of the West has a great opportunity to see a lot of in-store trials, whether it be payment trials, Beacon trials, et cetera. And we've actually gone and spent time in both Apple stores, which leverage Beacon, but also Macy's, American Eagle. There's a number of retailers here who are trialing Beacon, and so we've explored it we think that there's a lot of opportunity for digital and physical convergence of experience, where we could potentially have beacons in the branches and use that information about our customers with our mobile apps to deliver a differentiated branch experience to those users. That's certainly something that we see out on the horizon.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. I'm actually going to move over to our next question. Innovations to frame the whole purchasing process.
I think we have to make sure that we look at all of these innovations as tools, and not get so caught up in the shiny new technical aspects of each one, but take a step back and think about the customer experience from a holistic perspective, and how can these innovations either further, or in some cases you have to be honest about, do they detract from the purchasing process? Do they detract from the brand image and the brand message that we're trying to convey to the consumer? For example, the last question, GPS. I can certainly think of a lot of ways that GPS might be relevant to DITEC, but overall, right now, where we are, that's probably not a good use of my time and resources to spend on GPS, because we're doing mainly direct-to-consumer work nationwide, and location is not quite so relevant. However, imaging is relevant, and we're working the use of the camera part of the phone into some of the things that we're doing through social media. So, for us, it's really important to look at the overall user experience that we're trying to convey. How do we manifest the brand through these innovations and make them a part of the process, and make them add to the brand, not take away from it? And in many cases, simplicity rules. And the hard part is focusing yourself.
Do you maybe want to comment a little bit on this, or maybe build off anything that Rich just mentioned?
Sure. I think in general that you really have to start with solving a client pain point and looking at the overall experience first to determine the gaps. And then you solve for those gaps, whether it's in the purchase process or something as simple as a routine banking transaction. But you have to really look at where the either inefficiencies are for the client, or the things that that normally take 3 steps but could be solved with 1 step. And if you focus on those types of client pain points, I think it can really drive companies and to think about how to solve things in a different way. But you really have to start with trying to solve that client pain point. There's a lot of technologies out there that you could use, and yeah, it'd be cool to have this technology or that technology. But if it doesn't really solve that client pain point, then you have issues with adoption and marketing for people to use the technology or functions. So that's why I think really if you start with those client pain points first, you usually end up with much better, robust product that customers enjoy.
Thanks, Amy. And Matt, how about you? Is that resonating with you as well? What Amy and Rich just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think mostly for us, it's not just about kind of what customers are telling us their pain points are, although that's obviously hugely relevant. But it's about identifying, where they may have pain points that they don't even realize there are solutions to, and we think Quick Balance is a pretty good example of that. We've done about 1 million Quick Balance transactions in the first quarter of this year. The average user checks their Quick Balance 21 times a month. It's massive engagement. Our active user rate on mobile is 75%, which we think is very, very high. So, sometimes it's about solving a problem that people didn't even know that they had, and we think that can really lead to experiences that delight our consumers, which at the end of the day is one of the key things we're trying to do as we look to serve them.
Great, thank you, Matt. And Peter, how do you feel about all of these as well?
I think the panelists, and again, from Matt to everyone else, have made some really great points around it. I think I'm going to bring it back closer to the mortgage process. I think it's interesting in terms of how we solve for pain points. We've traditionally focused on facilitating the lending process digitally, but I think what we've done recently is really take a step back to look beyond your mortgages and instead look at the home purchasing journey holistically. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to partner with other stakeholders in the value chain to facilitate this purchasing decision. Through that lens, you can imagine where there's an app that can potentially bring together home sales listings, right, walk scores, or how convenient an area would be, school ratings, and all those considerations that really factor into a home purchasing decision. And once you do that, I think that's where you can really provide value to the customer, where it may not be a pain point, but it would create an experience where it makes sense for the customer to engage in the app, and also not only that, but provide value for the customer to kind of purchase the mortgage or the lending process through a particular financial institution. I think something that we're all looking at. I don't think anyone's really done it kind of end to end yet, but I would point everyone to some of the innovations that are launched by the Australian banks, who probably do this better than anyone else right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. I'm actually going to bring in Bruce real quick. Bruce, do you have any overall comments so far on any of these questions? Anything related to what Kofax is experiencing with some of its clients?
No, I think it's been well articulated by the various panelists, which is basically about finding opportunities to drive new revenue, expand their service offerings, and be really responsive to the customers. Because what we're seeing in mobility, that this is really a customer-driven use case, and customers have expectations from their banks and their financial institutions about how they will be engaged and what services would be provided to them. And so it's really good to see this level of innovation being driven out of these institutions that really help these customers select products, accelerate these processes and transactions, get a lot of personal benefit, but alternatively significantly benefit these banks, because faster processes, lower costs, better engagement, they know their customers better, so it benefits everybody. So we are really excited about the mobile channel and leveraging, as Rich said, the cameras to basically add more processes or meet your customers where they are. And so we're excited about where the market is and where it's evolving to, and so it's really exciting for us.
Great, thank you, Bruce. So let's move on to this next question here, which is, how does the mobile channel work to drive business in the other channels, and how are you integrating the channels to make sure that customers can complete banking tasks in a way that they feel comfortable with? So sort of a customer experience question here. I know I've been talking about that a little bit already, but I might throw this one over to Matt to see what you guys are thinking over at Bank of the West.
Yeah, sure. So I think like a lot of banks, we kind of have marketing or digital sales or mobile as separate teams, but at Bank of the West, they work together very, very closely. And so our dynamic customer messaging provides for a very consistent digital customer purchasing and customer engagement experience around the engagement that they see, the information that they see, and that if they take up the offer in one channel, then that ad or that experience goes away in the other channel, or perhaps it stays in order to reinforce the message if the purchase didn't go through, or if they didn't watch the video all the way, or whatever that experience happens to be. Where I would say there's a great deal of scope for improvement is where digital and branch and call center really converge and keep that consistent experience. And that's hard to do. I mean, I don't know of a bank that does that really, really well. Maybe some of the panelists have some examples that I haven't seen, but together and provide that great kind of converged experience. As far as the branch goes and the call center go, we think that mobile deposit is really a great opportunity for us to really work together to provide that really consistent experience. Since you do deposits at the branch, you do them on mobile, you do them at the ATM, and so things like the limits, things like funds availability, things like how we communicate about that and the information we provide to the team members that are supporting those channels are great opportunities to really be consistent, but not just consistent for the sake of being consistent and actually adding value and providing that awesome experience to customers.
Thanks, Matt. And Rich, how about you? How does the mobile channel work to drive business in the other channels, do you think?
Well, I think, we try to make sure that all of our channels work together. Again, as I said at the outset, whether or not you go through mobile, desktop, tablet, want to provide the same experience. I guess one of the best ways that I can talk about this is to provide an example. Some of the partners that we work with for advertising purposes, organizations like, say, Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com, those organizations find that their typical mix of usage, mobile versus desktop versus tablet, during a weekday, mobile might be 20 to 30% of their traffic. But on the weekend, when people are out looking at homes, it spikes to over 50% usage to the mobile channel. So, we're developing tools to work with them such that, when our ads or pre-qualification capabilities are viewed or linked to through their site, we see the same kind of dynamic where the mobile traffic is extremely high during periods of time when people are likely to be out looking at homes and have their mobile phone in their hand, versus during the week when people are sitting at their desk at home or maybe on a tablet. So having the ability for customers to move seamlessly across the channels and have the same experience with you, continue to, let's say, continue to work on an application that maybe they already started. If they started it on mobile, can they continue it on the tablet or the desktop? They all kind of work together, and I think it's really important to give the customer the ability to move seamlessly between the channels so that and have the same kind of experience, so that it's almost transparent to them how they're interacting with you.
Perfect. Thanks, Rich. And Peter, what do you think about this question?
Thanks. It is interesting. I think from what I've heard from the other panelists, I think it's very consistent to what our approach is around integrating the mobile channel with other channels. Looking at having a consistent design look and feel so that a customer can pick up and understand the process and the interactions wherever they go, whether it's online, tablet, mobile, et cetera. And back to Matt's point around establishing cross-channel linkages for our processes, whether it's a sales application, setting budgets or having the same access to the data, no matter what channel you come from. I think that's very important to drive the customer experience. With regards to actual driving business and revenue, again, I spoke earlier about our mobile appointment booking. That, again, has been a great win for us in allowing our customers to fulfill some of their more complex needs where they do need to engage or need assistance at a branch channel, but by starting that process through our mobile app. So I think that's the first example that we've been able to drive business. And in terms of our thinking, what we've done is really step back and say, mobile is, it's really the only channel per se that you can carry around with you. So whether I can carry it down with my ATM, carry it close to that, carry it to my branch, it is with you everywhere you go. And I think taking that, again, by leveraging some of the GPS or some of the other data that we can leverage through the mobile channel, we've also launched another functionality on our latest app that allows our customers to set a travel notification. Basically notify our branch when they're traveling so that we can help keep them secure. There's a few benefits to this. First, this allows our call center channel now to focus on more complex conversations with our customers. In addition to that, if you think about the use case for frequent flyers, you don't want to wait 10 minutes on a call center anyways. You probably want to actually just let our call centers know, or our fraud department know that you're traveling, and just press a button and you're done. There's no waiting, it's instantaneous. And also we've taken the opportunity to even offer travel insurance from our insurance group within the app. So I mean, if you think about the use case, we're about to fly, we know that. We do kind of provide the value to our customers, and at the same time maximizing the revenue opportunity in a very contextual manner. So I think that's another great use case that we've had to, again, take or more have a more efficient conversation with our customers, almost right channeling them in that sense, and at the same time providing a revenue opportunity where applicable. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. And Amy, I'm going to also ask you this question. How are you integrating the channels to make sure that customers can complete banking tasks in a way they feel comfortable with?
Sure. So, based on our customer research from our current client base and our footprint, one of the findings that we found and knew about was that our clients, when they have a need for something such as a mortgage, for example, right? We just went through this last year. They really do want to find a local specialist in their area, and so we started off by saying, okay, well, how can we help them find somebody that will help them in that way, whether they convert over to a phone call, whether they email them, or whether they stop by a local branch. And so we started by figuring out what is the client want to achieve based in the channel, and how can we help facilitate that. I agree with the earlier comments that I don't really think that there are any banks or financial institutions that are doing it just perfectly. So we're taking it two at a time and figuring out, okay, based on that customer scenario or the use case, if you will, what is it they want to achieve, what is their goal or objective, and then how can we make that a little bit more seamless. I think, from a financial institution perspective, I think there's a lot of additional integration just in general in the industry that needs to happen before I would say, hey, these are really good client experiences, but I think, one-offs, we're trying to get there in different ways. It takes a lot of coordination, though, between branch and call center and digital channels to map out what the right customer experience should be, though. And I think that will continue to evolve over the next 2 to 5 years. And I think the landscape will look a lot different in about 5 years.
Great. Thanks, Amy. This is actually that same question. So we're going to move on to the next one here, which is how are customers reacting to these new capabilities that you're offering them? I know we've already talked a little bit about this, but so the question here is, are customers ready for innovation in this area? And if not, how are you getting them to start adopting it? How are you sort of trying to push them to go to this new digital piece? So I'm actually going to start with Matt, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off here with this question.
I have to confess that I was multitasking. Do you mind repeating the question?
No worries at all. The question is, how are customers reacting to these new capabilities that you're offering them? Do you think they're ready for these new innovations? And if not, how are you sort of pushing them to try to start getting through this door?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I feel that the innovations that the customers embrace without even thinking about it, without having to be told that this is a good idea, that they should do it, without having to really, pressure them into it, signifies that it was well designed and met a real customer need. So, we didn't have to push quick balance, right, for people to do 1 million of them in the first quarter of the year. We didn't have to really, tell customers it was a good idea to tap on our dynamic customer messages, and we managed to increase YouTube video viewership of our Bank of the West YouTube videos by a factor of 10x in a 2-week period. So generally, we have to, really hard sell customers on doing things like, taking out loans and doing things that may not be supernatural. But when it comes to digital and digital innovation, it should just be easy, and it should just feel very natural to do it. As far as how comfortable customers are, You know, I think with all of the advancement that's been going on in non-banking apps, whether it be around social media, whether it be around services like Uber, whether it be around, you know, Amazon and mobile commerce and the way that you upload your card information with Card.io, et cetera, I think customers are expecting more from us, which is actually making it harder. We now can't get away with what I would call a banking UI, right? It has to be a really good UI, or customers will walk away, quite frankly, and they'll stop using it because they don't like the experience. So innovation's great. It also raises the bar, and that means that we have to work harder. But you know, that's why we're all in this business.
Thanks, Matt. And Amy, what do you think about this? How are customers sort of reacting to these new capabilities?
I was just smiling at Matt's comment around banking UI because it's so true. You know, I think to his point that you really have to start concentrating on the overall client experience to better align these different channels. And, you know, we're trying to focus on delivering capabilities that, you know, not only that our clients are asking for, but that also solve a pain point in a new way. And I think it does have to be really fluid, and a really good experience should be, the technology should be, you know, pretty transparent to the client. The client, it shouldn't be kludgy. It should just be very easy for the client to interact. So, you know, for example, we've got our resource center that we launched last year. It runs on a dynamic business rules engine, and the content is dynamic, and it's, you know, based on related content and related information. And we focused with that on the design. We focused on the usability and the client experience. So that technology just kind of works, right? It delivers a really good client experience, and the clients don't have to really think about it as much. And so I think anytime that we're delivering innovations and so forth to customers, clients, consumers, that if you do it in a way that is really seamless and takes into perspective what that user experience should look like, you shouldn't really have to drive adoption. It should be something that is just natural to clients to do.
Thanks, Amy. That's great. Peter, are some of these ideas sort of resonating with you as well?
Definitely. I think both Matt and Amy really hit it on the spot, where I think we're looking at, you know, sectors such as retail and, you know, technology firms such as Apple and Google have really pushed the envelope, and on our part really accelerated the expectations of our customers, whether across the spectrum, whether it's user experience, process, data, and interactions, right? So in that regard, I think our industry is almost playing catch up in that sense. Used to it before, you know, before we really for us to get them to start adopting it. But also, I think on the flip side, for kind of the non-digital native, perhaps, customer education and marketing really still plays a key role in helping them understand why the innovation is beneficial for them, whether it be interactive demos, messaging, multi-channel support, you know, and kind of a library for FAQs, et cetera. That, I think, for those who aren't our traditional mobile banking users, I think we've seen that it really helps adoption. One kind of specific example we have of that is within our app. We've launched what we call tips and hints, because our new app platform has seen pretty radical departure in terms of UI. It's, you know, as Matt and Amy were saying, it's more of a flat design. It's you know, very modern look and feel. But to help them acclimate to it, we've kind of had almost a quick tutorial embedded within the app, and that's really helped our engagement for new functionality. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. That's great. And Rich, what do you think about this? Are customers ready for some of these new capabilities?
Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, I think everything that I would say about this has already been said by the other panelists. You know, the bar has been set so high by other industries that, you know, in many ways, the financial services industry is behind. And so by the time we get to the point of rolling some of these innovations out, the best ones are just naturally adopted by customers. It's almost as if they're expected. I mean, they've been exposed to them by so many other brands that that it just comes naturally.
Perfect. Thanks, Rich. I actually wanted to bring Bruce on real quick from Kofax. Do you think with some of the clients you guys are working with, do you think that their customers are ready for some of the really great and interesting solutions that you guys are coming out with?
Well, absolutely, because the users have that expectation, as Richard and Matt, Amy, and Peter have all pointed out. Users have expectations. They can leverage this channel. This is their preferred channel. This is how they found you. This is how they interact with you as a brand, as a financial institution. So offering new services and expanding your services to leverage this channel and leverage it for the entire transaction cycle is very, very important and competitive. So yeah, we see it tremendously in our space.
Great, thanks, Bruce. So we're going to move on to actually what I think is going to be our last question before I pass things over to Bruce. And I know this is actually probably going to be one of the deeper questions. But the question here is, what are the deeper challenges beyond the front end app piece and the ideas and the innovation piece that you encounter during coming up with some of these really great new features? I know there's sometimes compliance issues and there's sometimes technology issues and also internal infrastructure problems that you can come across dealing with some of the channels. So I wanted to pass that one on to Peter actually real quick, if you wouldn't mind starting us off on this question.
Absolutely. I think some of the challenges that we face is really around the access to information and the privacy of the app itself, right? I think around that, we can deliver, I think, a great experience as we get more and more data from the customer. However, we really want to be transparent around how we use that data, and again, from a compliance and privacy perspective, understand from a customer perspective, there might be some reticence to sharing this data with your banking provider, perhaps. For our customers. I think that's one of the key challenges that we face. If you think about Google, I think one thing that they've done really well is that most people who are heavy users of it are quite comfortable giving that data to Google. I think the challenge is that, for example, Google Now, they do provide a lot of value in near real time to a customer so that the customers understand that this is what you're getting in return for that data they provide and they share. That's probably going to be the key challenge for us going forward. Obviously, technology issues aside, I mean, it's evolving at such a rapid pace that we have to make a very conscious decision of the right platforms to evolve. And because of the dynamic nature of this industry, I think that's one of the key pieces. I think we have to continually invest or make very smart investments on our platforms. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Peter. And I'm actually going to move this over to Rich. Rich, what do you think are some of the deeper challenges here?
Well, I think from an organizational perspective, when you start looking at these kinds of tools, one of the big challenges is how do you translate this into ROI for the business? You're going to, when you go down the path of beginning to develop these kinds of tools, you're inevitably going to have the conversation with the CFO about, yes, it's going to cost this much to implement, but what are the benefits? And in some cases, those are very, very difficult to quantify. So certainly, I think the internal discussions around ROI, around technology investments, around who owns the tech, who is really driving the technology? Is it coming out of the marketing side of the organization, or is it coming out of the IT part of the organization? There are a lot of those kinds of organizational challenges that you've got to learn to deal with and negotiate in order to effectively bring some of these tools to market in the first place.
Great, thanks, Rich. And Amy, really quickly, what do you think some of these deeper challenges are? Just some of the things that.
I think in addition to the two that we've talked about, I think one of them is a lot of times business process related. So as we continue to integrate channels more tightly and they become interdependent on each other, I think there's a lot of coordination that has to happen between various teams, so between digital and the call center, or the branch call center and digital. And so I think in those cases you have to have a really tightly aligned goal, overall goals that you're driving toward, so that you can align and get the right resources and the right conversations going. So, a lot of times the technology component isn't really the issue. We can buy or build technology. It's aligning all the business processes and resources around to pull off a really seamless client experience.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Amy. And Matt, really quick, we're going to finish up with you on this question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess slightly different. I think Rich touched on this at the end, but I mean, for me, not being a banker before I joined Bank of the West, I sometimes feel like I'm playing with one arm tied behind my back. We're banks. In order to innovate at a bank, in my opinion, it is far, far harder than innovating anywhere else. We have constraints placed upon us, whether regulatory or culturally or from a human resources standpoint, that just make it harder to get new and different things done. At Bank of the West, we're really fortunate that we have awesome support from the executive team, all the way down, and that's allowed us to do a lot in a relatively short amount of time for a bank. I'd say that some of the hard things are just explaining the value and explaining why we have to do it and why being first is okay. And a lot of times, various groups in the bank don't always understand that, right? And that's a big challenge. The op risk and compliance piece is a huge challenge because in many cases, there isn't a blueprint for what we're doing. Our chief risk officer at the bank keeps telling me that we're on the tip of the spear, and chief risk officers don't like being on the tip of the spear, especially when it's mobile and they didn't necessarily, grow up in a mobile world. So I think as banks, those are some of the biggest challenges to innovating, and so it just takes a lot of education, a lot of time, being persistent at times. But if you do all that, you can definitely get a lot of things done, and if you can innovate at a bank, in my opinion, you can innovate just about anywhere.
Great. Thanks so much, Matt. I'm now going to turn things over to Bruce Orcutt from Kofax. We've been talking a lot about some great innovations in mobile and online that these industry experts have been working on at their particular banks. But Bruce is going to share with us something really interesting and innovating that Kofax is currently offering. So Bruce, if you wouldn't mind taking over.
Sure, thank you very much. It's been a terrific dialogue and discussion. It's really about this innovation and meeting your customers where you are. And the fact that customers now have this expectation of immediate gratification and immediate interaction with their banks. And then whether it's a consumer or an agent or a broker or an employee of the bank, there really is a now expectation. And actually it's funny that we're talking about mobile today, mobility, is that there's actually a documented disease now or condition, which is basically the fear without being with your smartphone. And it just really articulates the message of how consumers are so attached to this. They have this in their pocket, like Rich indicated and Matt has spoken about. This channel is with them all the time. And how do we engage them on that channel is very, very important, because that will be how we differentiate our services, our offerings, and drive competitive advantage. Obviously, these channels are important to the banks. We've seen that all documented by the various CEOs, and the fact that all the banks are moving to online and mobility and mobilizing their engagement offerings to their various customers. So we see this trend, and it's being well documented by the CEOs. And in fact, when I was at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, the CEO of Bank of America articulated this very clearly, that their customers now have the branch in their pocket. So that's an area that Kofax is focusing on, because we understand that mobile is really about innovation, and many of the new employees here at Kofax may never have actually walked into a branch physically. They do all their banking and all their financial transactions in an online or virtual way. And so, enabling this and enabling your solutions, whether it's bill pay or it's mortgage or supporting documents for a loan, new account opening, or customer onboarding via this channel not only gives you competitive advantage, but it helps to accelerate revenues, drive better customer service, and really move this to a self-service model, which is very, very important for that mobile customer to be able to interact with your business and your services via this channel. And it really helps us understand that these users are focused on self-service. If I can go and initiate the mortgage process via my mobile device, and then the system will engage with me, very similar to what Amy was talking about with her, the client experience, and these rules engines behind the system that really help engage the customer and guide them through a particular engagement or process. That's really what it's about, leveraging this channel, having an intelligent application that really engages the customer, helps them interact with that process, but more importantly, drives benefit for the bank in innovation, accelerated processes, better data, better understanding of the customer, and the ability now to package that information and go back and upsell them and drive new revenues and offer new services and opportunities. But it is a multi-channel discussion, and I really like some of the comments about Amy about the responsive web and unified design and this multi-channel aspect. And that's important from a Kofax perspective too, is as we help you enable customer onboarding scenarios for mobile mortgage and supporting and capturing supporting documents and doing online bill pay or automatic bill pay from the mobile channel and capturing and processing all these documents and giving you this context, it's multi-channel. So if we support something with you for the mobile user, we also can support that same use case via mobile web or a web portal or via email or via fax, enabling you to properly engage the channel within your process, engage that user, and enable them to leverage whatever channel makes the most sense to them at that moment in time. And also within the understanding that within the mobile space itself, it is actually multi-channel. And our ability to support you in designing customer-facing apps and solutions and implementing these solutions where we can engage these customers in mobile mortgage and customer onboarding and accounts and check deposit and all these other use cases via whatever mobile integration point you're looking for. If they're an existing customer and they have your native app, let's engage them with your native app. If they aren't an existing customer and we're in an onboarding scenario, we want to leverage the mobile web to engage them because they have not downloaded your app. Let's leverage the mobile app and capture their IDs and their supporting documents to help onboard them into your use case. But as it relates specifically to mortgage, enabling your customers and your systems and your origination system to directly interact with your customers and ask them for supporting documents and enable them to initiate that transaction right from that device in their pocket that they have with them all the time is very, very important and very compelling. Enabling them to self-service and submit the W-2, the pay stub, and have Kofax automatically understand that's the right document, extract all the metadata associated with that transaction so you can have that context for your fraud detection, for your use case of business rules, and for making sure all compliance is met. But also being able to communicate back to the user. I asked you for 2012, but you gave me 2011. Can you please submit 2012? And also information, interacting with that data, whether it's for onboarding, for new account opening, for adding a payee in the online bill pay or the mobile bill pay solution, or if it's back office where we're just engaging the user to submit content. Maybe it's for a supporting document. Maybe it's for a trailing document related to their W-2, their pay stub. Or maybe it's something that we need an additional proof of residency to complete the transaction for the new account opening or for an auto loan. But providing that ability for you to engage their customers gives you better customer engagement and improves customer service. So really what Kofax is about is enabling you to leverage that mobile channel, leverage the web channel, email, fax, any potential channel where you need to engage your customers in whatever use case you have. And we often reference it that every customer has a phone and an ID in their pocket as it relates to onboarding. And imagine what you can do with just a couple of taps and a photo or two to support your proof of residency requirements, to support the ability to add a payee with regard to bill pay, deposit the check, all off of a single platform. that can be reused and repurposed and extended for any additional use case. As we train the document in mortgage to understand how to understand proof of residency or proof of identity, we can extend that same use case to that same learning and that same investment that you have already invested in, that already have in production. What's the customer success rate? Where are they having challenges? What devices are giving you the best straight-through processing, and which devices are providing some obstacles? What are my recognition rates? Where are my exceptions coming from? Are they geographic? Are they based upon device? Based upon the age of the user? Having this information and analytics available to you in real-time dashboards helps you better engage and deliver more successful and more effective apps and solutions for your customers. And then finally, it's all based upon a single vendor platform. So now you have the ability to extend the use case, control your mobile destiny, and then most importantly, provide a complete application and solution for whatever the use case may be that you need to engage your customers on within the banks or whatever your financial services use case would be. So I'll turn that back over to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. We actually didn't get any questions, but we are going to be accepting them. If you wanted to send them to me, my email is elizabeth.robillard, which is ROBILLARD @wbresearch.com. And I wanted to thank all the panelists as well as Kofax for joining us today on this webinar, and I wanted to thank our audience members as well. I think this has been a really great webinar, and I hope that everyone really enjoyed